Welcome to another unboxing video. Today it's an unboxing and a review of the Steinhart Ocean GMT vintage watch by our follower at Ricktime. So stick around and enjoy the video.
We've got something polarizing today. I'm Ricktime on Instagram. And before we begin this unboxing, let me get the naughty word of the day out of the way. Here goes. Homage. There we go. Homage. Not so harsh after all. Now let's get the unboxing done. And who can be bothered with watching that? So here's one I did earlier. What we have here is a brand new piece from Steinhart. And now that we've lost the half of the audience that hates homages, we can really get into the review. This is the new Steinhart Ocean Vintage GMT 39. A special edition for Ulco, a German watch boutique. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it's been harder to get than most Rolexes simply because there's no grey market and they've been dropping a small batch at random, only available from the Ulco website directly. Now the elephant in the room here is that it's a homage to the Rolex Steve McQueen Explorer 2 reference 1655. Which was made from 1971 to 1984, also known as the Freccion, or Arrow as it's translated from Italian. Probably because of the GMT hand, I imagine. And considering that 2021 is the 50th anniversary of the Explorer 2, this new release from Steinhart is an extremely interesting value proposition, especially at under £400. No matter how you feel about homages, the original watch is no longer produced and has not been for years. Good luck getting one even if you have funds. Personally, I say if a watch is out of production, then it's fair game. Now if Rolex or Tudor bring the design back for the 50th anniversary, as some of these renders might suggest, that's a different matter. But for now, back to the Steinhart. This really is a beauty. I was a fan of the original 41mm version that's been out for a while. But this differs not just in case size, which to me is a lot nicer in 39mm. The obvious changes are the non-faux lume and the added cyclops. Let's run down the rest of the stats very quickly. The movement they use is the ETA 2893. It's Swiss made, of course, automatic, it has 21 joules, and obviously a hacking seconds hand. There's a second time zone, unlike the original Steve McQueen, and a date at 3 o'clock, as we said before, that now has a cyclops. There's also a screw down crown, which allows for 30 meters of water resistance. It's a stainless steel, the diameter is, as we said, 39mm, the height is 13mm, which is smaller than the previous version, and the lug width is 20mm with spring bars. It's a sapphire glass flat top, which is really nice, and double domed anti-reflective coating, which gives it a really crisp dial, even on bright days. The dial again is matte black, which is like the original from Steinhart and from Rolex, and really helps with visibility and readability of the watch. And finally, it's got Superluminova BGW9. 4 letters, I have no idea what they mean, I'm sure you do. Either way, it gives a really nice bright blue modern looking lume. There's a stainless steel strap, which is 20mm at the watch and tapers down to 16mm at the clasp. The buckle itself is stainless steel deployant clasp at 16mm wide with the logo on top. Speaking of the clasp, it's pretty solid with 4 micro adjustment holes, although you will need a tool as there's no quick adjustment. So, overall, what do I love and what do I hate? Now I love the non-faux lume, and that's saying something because I'm a fan of the Tudor Pelagos LHD simply because it has that nice faux lume and it's a left-hand watch. I'm also a fan of the new size and the smaller wrist presence that goes along with it. And of course that added cyclops, although that's actually where my dislikes also start. The cyclops itself is not magnified enough for me, and looks a little bit like one of those fake Rolex cyclopses that haven't got that 2.5 times magnification perfect. The date itself sits a little bit too small inside that. And while the wrist size is a lot better than the 41mm version, which to me was just too large, it's still a little bit too thick. And the only other dislike I have is the crystal overall. I appreciate the added sapphire crystal on top and the scratch resistant that brings to the table, but it would have been great to see a bubble or even a box sapphire to add some vintage feel to the watch. Obviously that would have increased the price because that's harder to make. The flat sapphire here has great visibility, which is amplified, as we said, by the matte black dial. But it's a little bit boring. It's a little bit too clean and a little bit too clinical. Now, the best way to showcase why this is a dislike for me is to compare it to another homage. And I just happen to have one right here. This is the Incipio Explorer 9, which is even more special, as it's one of around 300-ish pieces exclusively made for the Japan market by a Japanese magazine for its VIP subscribers. These are almost impossible to find, especially outside of Japan. It also has the true Swiss GMT ETA 2893 movement, but the likeness overall is a lot closer to the original McQueen. The Incipio has an even smaller wrist presence, although this is still a true GMT movement, which is fascinating if you consider just how thin the Incipio is. There is also a Cyclops on the Incipio, but it's a much better proportioned Cyclops. The date is much larger in that window. And it has a domed acrylic glass that gives it a much better vibe to the watch overall. Obviously you're losing scratch resistant as a property there, and you'll have to get some of that poly watch just to make sure you can keep it in good nick. Both have great lume, where the Incipio goes with a warm vintage green and the Steinhart a sharp, cool modern blue. And they both are incredible watches. So to finish, while these are homages, it's worth pointing out that both the Incipio and the Steinhart are arguably better than the McQueen, simply because they both have a true GMT movement. It was a shock for me to learn that the original Rolex Explorer 2 did not have a true GMT. You could not show 2 time zones on the watch. It was only meant to give the 24-hour version of the main time. Both of these watches, however, have an independent GMT hand, and at the price point that's a huge deal. The Incipio goes for around £700 as a second-hand watch, if you can find one, while the Steinhart is listed at 376 Great British pounds before VAT, which is incredible no matter how you look at it. Overall, the Steinhart is the modern choice that feels a lot more solid on the wrist and has a cleaner presence to it, with a sapphire crystal, solid casement clasp. Whereas the Incipio is the best choice for a true vintage feel, with a lighter, thinner case, acrylic glass and so on, but a movement that you can trust and a true GMT hand. Both of these watches are available, both are more limited than most Rolexes, so best of luck getting one. You can try eBay for the Incipio and the Olco website for the Steinhart. Either way, you're going to end up with a great watch. And both are great options for avid watch fans to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Explorer 2, as we wait for the official Rolex 2021 novelties to drop. That's enough from me. I'm Rick Time on Instagram. Thanks Scottish Watches. Rick Time out.